Hello, and welcome back to our journey through some of the most influential stories ever told. Today, we're diving deep into a narrative that has shaped cultures, beliefs, and even our understanding of humanity itself. We're exploring the story of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and the moment everything changed. Last time, we witnessed the grand creation of the heavens and the earth. By the seventh day, the cosmic masterpiece was complete. God rested from his work, blessing the seventh day and making it a holy time of rest. This sets the stage for the next act, the creation of humanity. Imagine a world pristine and new. The earth is there, but no shrubs or plants have sprung up yet. Why? Because there was no rain, and more importantly, there was no one to cultivate the ground. It was a blank canvas waiting for its artist. Then, from the dust of the ground, God forms the first man. He breathes the breath of life into his nostrils, and the man becomes a living soul. God then plants a magnificent garden in a place called Eden in the east. This isn't just any garden, it's a paradise. God places the man he formed right in the middle of it. Picture lush greenery, trees of every kind that are beautiful to look at and perfect for food. In the center of this paradise stand two very special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flows out of Eden to water this incredible garden. And from there, it splits into four major rivers: the Piscean, which flows through a land rich with fine gold and precious stones; the Gihon, the famous Tigris; and the Euphrates. This description grounds the story, connecting this paradise to landmarks that ancient people would have recognized. The man, now known as Adam, is given a purpose. God puts him in the Garden of Eden, not just to enjoy it, but to work it and take care of it. He's the first gardener, the first steward of the earth. And with this responsibility comes a single, clear instruction. God tells Adam, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden." Think about that generosity. A whole paradise of food, freely given. But then comes the one condition: you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat from it, you will certainly die. A simple rule, but one with the ultimate consequence. But as Adam goes about his work, God observes, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." This is a pivotal moment. It acknowledges the human need for companionship. So, God forms all the wild animals and birds and brings them to Adam. Adam is given the task of naming every single creature. Can you imagine that parade of animals? The lions, the eagles, the dolphins, and whatever name Adam gives them, that's what they are called. It shows his authority and his connection to the world around him. Yet, after naming all the animals, from the livestock to the birds in the sky, so God performs a unique act of creation. He causes Adam to fall into a deep sleep. While he's sleeping, God takes one of his ribs, and from that rib he fashions a woman. He then brings her to the man. When Adam wakes up and sees her, his response is pure poetry, the first recorded words of love and recognition. He says, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." It's a beautiful expression of sameness, of partnership, of a deep, intrinsic connection. The story then adds a powerful statement that echoes through history. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. And in this state of pure connection, Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Their innocence was complete. But paradise, as we know, doesn't last. A new character enters the scene, the serpent. The text describes him as more crafty than any of the other wild animals. He approaches the woman, Eve, and begins to sow seeds of doubt with a seemingly innocent question. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? He's twisting God's generous command into a restrictive one. Eve corrects him, showing she knows the rule perfectly. "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden," she says, "but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" This is where the serpent makes his move. He directly contradicts God. "You will not certainly die," he insists. He then offers a tantalizing alternative. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." He paints God not as a benevolent provider, but as a gatekeeper holding back something good from them. The temptation is now perfectly framed. Eve looks at the tree. The fruit is good for food, it's pleasing to the eye, and it's desirable for gaining wisdom. It appeals to her physical appetite, her aesthetic sense, and her intellectual ambition. The lure is too strong. She takes some of the fruit and eats it. Then she gives some to her husband, who was right there with her, and he eats it too. The effect is immediate, but not in the way the serpent promised. Their eyes are opened, yes, but what they see is their own vulnerability. They realize they are naked. The innocence is gone, replaced by a new awareness of self, and with it, shame. They quickly sew fig leaves together to make coverings for themselves. Later that day, they hear the sound of God walking in the garden during the cool evening breeze. But instead of running to greet him, as they might have before, they hide. They hide from their Creator among the trees of the garden. Fear has entered the world. God calls out not because he doesn't know where they are, but to give them a chance to come forward. "Where are you?" he asks Adam. Adam's reply is heartbreaking. "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked." God asks the piercing question, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The moment of truth has arrived. But instead of taking responsibility, Adam points the finger. "The woman you put here with me gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." It's a classic blame shift, even implicating God in the process. "The woman you put here." God then turns to Eve. "What is this you have done?" And she, in turn, passes the blame. "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." No one is willing to own their choice. This breakdown of trust and responsibility is as tragic as the disobedience itself. Now, the consequences are laid out for each participant. First, the serpent is cursed above all other animals. He is condemned to crawl on his belly and eat dust for the rest of his life. Then comes a profound and mysterious prophecy. God declares there will be hostility between the serpent and the woman, and between their offspring. He says the woman's offspring will crush the serpent's head, while the serpent will strike his heel. This verse has been interpreted for millennia as the first promise of a future Redeemer who would ultimately defeat evil. To the woman, God says her pains in childbearing will be greatly increased. Her desire will be for her husband, and a new unbalanced dynamic of rule is introduced into their relationship, a stark contrast to the partnership they once shared. To Adam, because he listened to his wife's voice over God's command, the ground itself is cursed. He will now have to toil and sweat for his food. The easy abundance of the garden is replaced by a life of hard labor, wrestling with thorns and thistles to survive. And God reminds him of his origin and his ultimate fate. "For dust you are, and to dust you will return." Physical death is now a certainty. Even in this moment of judgment, there is a glimmer of hope and care. Adam names his wife Eve, which means mother of all the living, an act of faith in the future of humanity. And God, seeing their flimsy fig leaf coverings, makes them more durable garments of skin. It's an act of compassion, covering their shame, even as they face the consequences of their actions. But they can no longer remain in paradise. God says, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. To prevent them from reaching out, taking from the tree of life, and living forever in this fallen, broken state, they must be sent away. So God banishes them from the Garden of Eden. They are sent out into the world to work the ground from which Adam was taken, and to guard the way back to the tree of life. God places powerful angelic beings, cherubim, and a flaming sword that flashes back and forth. The gate to paradise is closed. This story marks a fundamental turning point. It asks the end of innocence and the beginning of the human struggle as we know it, a world of hardship, pain, and mortality, but also one touched by a promise of future redemption. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most foundational stories. If you found this exploration meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you next time.